It's been a little while, but we're back off the holiday break. This is a public service announcement out there for the folks who are still eating mama's leftovers a week and a half later. I know you're there. It's enough. It's enough already. Just pack it all up, tin foil, throw it out. We had plenty of leftovers.
Too much.
Stay too much like we didn't just finish eating it. Mama, we love you. Yeah. Thanks again. Last time around, we were talking about Michael Brook. He's the man who was making $75,000 through the Nashville District Attorney's Office working part-time, even though we don't really know what he was doing for the money. Now we know the state and Metro auditors are investigating. A couple weeks ago, NewsChannel 5's Phil Williams uncovered Brook's timesheet, and that's where he found that he had been billing taxpayers for 20 hours a week, working remotely and almost exclusively after hours. Phil also found that he logged hours on the holidays, but we also found out that he may have been logging hours while he was on the golf course. As for what he was doing while he was on the clock, Phil actually showed up to Brook's home and asked him, and that's when he told him, you really need to speak with Nashville District Attorney Glenn Funk.
Michael Brook is an important member of our office, has been for...
What does he do?
He has worked nonstop to make sure that the transition has gone forward with regards to both the financial pieces of our office as well as the HR pieces and as far as the body cams go.
Here's what we know. Brook swiped into the DA's office 5 times in 2 years, logged into the DA's computer system 4 days in 11 months, and hadn't sent a work-related email since September of 2021, all while collecting $75,000 a year of taxpayer money. Auditors say they're looking into all of this and also looking into whether or not any resources were spent from the Nashville DA's office to help get Funk reelected. So we just got the numbers back for Nashville Safe Surrender 2022. This is, of course, the 2-day event where you can actually turn yourself in for any outstanding warrants, and in return, a judge can offer a more lenient punishment. This year, there were 160 people who turned themselves in. 58 had outstanding warrants. So let's break down the number for a sec. Out of that 58, 55 of them actually went home. They spoke to a judge and they either took care of a fine or whatever, but they had a chance to go home. There were 3 who had to stay back, 2 of which had outstanding warrants outside of the county, so they kind of had to be taken in. But by the numbers, it looks like even fewer people compared to last year were taken into custody. I know this thing only happens about once a year, but we're always wondering, do you think your city could benefit from a program like this that offers second chances? All right, so over the past couple of months, we've been digging into emissions reports from Middle Point Landfill. It's one of the largest landfills in Tennessee, and if you don't know it by name, you may know it by the smell's reputation alone. What we found was that since 2018, there have been more than 300 cases where methane leaking from the facility was above state and federal limits. That threshold is 500 parts per million. We found levels as high as 43,000, 60,000, even 80,000 parts per million. Now, every time this happens, Middle Point Landfill, like all landfills, are given 10 days, 20 days, and 30 days to eventually fix the issue. So what did they do about it? A closer look at their records and you'll see that their first solution was almost always compacted soil and clay. In other words, bury it with dirt and hope for the best.
While it might seem that that's the bare minimum, there's a reason it's listed first, and that reason is soil is a fantastic barrier system.
Landfill experts around the country told us that using soil is not uncommon, but it's usually always followed up with some sort of cover to lock in the gases. From what we could tell, there was no mention in any of these records of more cover being used to fix the issue. To their credit, Middle Point Landfill now has far fewer methane leaks than they've had in the past after pumping $7.5 million into a new gas collection system. They're so confident in their ability to lock in these gases that they're now breaking ground on a new facility meant to convert landfill gas into renewable energy by the end of 2023. So it's possible that in the near future, you could have landfill gas pumping into your home without ever knowing the difference. Last but not least, how's the commute for you? The commute. It's longer?
Yeah. But also we were driving during lunch. So.
Yeah. Good. Lunch? When do you have lunch?
What time was it?
It's like 10 something.
I don't know.
Also, we were driving through lunch. It's like 10 o'clock. The reason I ask, and I should actually ask, here's the question. Would you pay for a shorter commute?
Yes.
You would?
Yeah.
Okay. So it turns out that Tennessee lawmakers are now considering adding choice lanes to help make your commute much faster. So if you go to like any other city, any other state, you'll see like an express lane on the interstate.
Right.
Or nearby it. You've never seen one of these passes? My brother has one. It's like a sticker that you put in the car, and then once you just drive through, it scans. You're paying for access to get a faster commute. Let's just put it that way. Obviously, this is very new. They haven't figured out how much they would charge people for access to these roads. The talk around town is that it may fluctuate. So depending on the traffic, you may pay a little bit more, or if there's not that much traffic, now the cost isn't that much, which, interesting. I haven't seen that anywhere. Here are some of the numbers that I wanted to go over. Experts say that last year, Tennessee grew by 9%. The population grew by 9%. And in the coming 2 decades, our commute will increase by 60%, which is just insane to think of. So what does this mean now? Nothing changes at the moment. It'll be brought up in the legislature at some point here in the next year. They're hoping to have something figured out sooner than later because, as we noted, Tennessee's growing and the commute, it's getting longer and longer as we go. Remember, folks, like, comment, subscribe, and if you have any questions about these stories, just click the links in the description below. As always, we want to know, what do you think?